My dad was extremely dangerous and volatile. You know, later on in years, as I got older and stuff, he started to get really, really unwell. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He had a really horrible temper, especially when he'd been drinking. Depending on what substance he'd ingested on the day was depending on how our day was going to go when we spent it with him.
Yes.
Dad was pretty full on. He could be extremely unpredictable, especially with his temper and stuff. It was never directed at me and my sister, just those around us. And that was really scary. It got to the point where probably about 4 years before he passed, he'd had multiple suicide attempts. He'd ring me up at 3 or 4 in the morning just abusing me, asking me stupid questions like, who would name their kid Maya? And I'm like, I don't know, you did. That's my sister's name. Like, why are you asking me this at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Like, because he'd be having his schizophrenic episode, and then he'd end up in the psych ward.
Yeah. And did he have a tough upbringing?
Yeah.
Or do you understand much about his upbringing?
He didn't really talk much about his upbringing. I do know, though, that his dad died in front of him. He had a heart attack and my dad couldn't save him.
Yeah.
I also know, though, that him and his dad had a very tumultuous sort of relationship between the two of them. He absolutely hated his dad, but he really felt guilty that he wasn't able to save his dad at the same time. And like he was quite young when that happened. I think he was about roughly the same age I was when my dad died, 2021 or something. Yeah. So he didn't really have the best role models in life. I'm pretty sure his dad was an alcoholic as well from memory, but I can't be. Don't quote me on that.
It's interesting how these things become cyclical, don't they? Like you trying to save your dad, like from his mental health issues and all of that sort of stuff, like he did to his dad, and you're both losing your fathers when you're young and still growing and developing. It's one of the sad things about addiction that I quite often see come up time and time again. So how long have you been clean for now, Caitlin?
10 months and 19 days.
How do you feel? Do you feel like coming up to a year is...
I feel like a completely different person, going into active in that I was still very, violent and aggressive and volatile and that sort of thing. But as a protective measure, because of the stuff that I was doing whilst I was inactive, it was definitely a necessity to be able to survive day to day. Nowadays, I'm very placid. Like I don't have as much of a temper. I've actually found that serenity that NA constantly talks about and stuff. Don't get me wrong, I still have my days. I'm not perfect yet, but I've come a long way in those 10 months. I've got really positive outlook on life now. I actually want to live. I don't want to end it all like I did for the 17 years that I was out there. Things are actually looking really promising for me, and I actually wake up every day and I'm happy.
Yay.
As I said, I still have my days, but I can turn them around pretty easily just by doing the suggested things or, reaching out to another member in the fellowship and that sort of thing. And it's just been a massive blessing.
Amazing. We'll get to where you are and how good life is now. What happened 10 and a half months ago?
It was a bit longer than that. So February, no, I'll start a bit before that. So not February last year, but the October before that February, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I got raided, not once but twice. And I'd already had multiple run-ins with the law. Leading up to that, I was already on a CCO. I was already looking at jail time for breaching that CCO. Then I got raided and convicted of trafficking.
Okay.
As a result of that. But I didn't actually have court until after I went to rehab. So in my head, I'm like, well, the only way I'm going to stay out of jail is if I go to rehab. So I had no intentions of staying clean at that point because, I'd literally surrendered to the fact that I was going to be an addict for the rest of my life. I was dealing, so it was the only way I knew how to make money and hold down a job. I've suffered a lot of physical health problems over my life.
From drug use?
No. I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 21. That was the same day my dad passed away too. It was a bit of a double whammy that day. And I had to get a bowel resection done by the time I was 24, 25.
Yeah, because of the Crohn's.
Yeah. And that's what ended up starting me use because I couldn't hold down a job.
Yeah.
Because I was always really unwell and in and out of hospital all the time. So I was constantly getting fired. I actually held really good jobs prior to that. I'm actually qualified Legal.
Are you?
Yes, I actually worked at the magistrate's court, believe it or not,
Yeah, before you went there.
before I
Yeah.
went down that dark path. Yeah. I've worked for some top tier law firms in the city,
Yeah.
as a legal secretary and stuff, but I just couldn't hold down a job because I wasn't well enough to
Yes.
attend work every day. You know, I've worked for the TAC.
Yep.
I've done some pretty full on jobs.
Yeah.
2 years shy of a law degree.
Yeah.
Such a waste,
Well,
but it is what
hey,
it is.
one of the things with chronic illness as well, that it's not always easily seen as well, but like it causes a great deal of turmoil in your life
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
stress in your life. So that led to you going down the path of using
Yeah.
drugs. But you were saying you first went to rehab to try and get round and avoid going to jail.
Yes,
And how did that work out for you?
really well.
Yeah.
But not in that way. Worked out perfectly for me because I spent the first 3 days of detox actually in the hospital ward because my Crohn's had flared up, and then by the 4th day, I was transferred over to the detox ward, and I was already starting to feel really good. And
Yeah.
I was away from all the drama and all the chaos, and I felt peace for the first time in 17 years, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "You know what? I'm actually gonna give this a go. What have I got to lose?"
Did you
Maybe.
feel looked after as well? Like
Yeah, I
yeah.
felt safe. I
Yes.
felt safe. That
Mm.
was definitely a big part of it. So I did my 7 days detox at St. Vincent's in the city. Then I went to rehab in Hillsville
Oh,
for
yeah.
28 days, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I was like, I just did a full 180 really overnight. Like, I just really embraced it. I really pushed myself through those awkward moments and stuff, or those moments that have really made me feel uncomfortable and stuff, just so I could get the full benefit of the 28 days that I was going to be there. It was hard, but it was also a really beautiful experience as well. And, I went from being this angry, moody, off my face, just completely unpredictable person to being this little ray of sunshine. Like, I'd just
Yeah.
light up the room whenever I walked in, and I was like, what's going on here? And I actually enjoyed it. So I was floating around on this pink cloud the whole time I was in
Yes.
rehab. I'm like, I don't want to lose this. I can't go back to that.
Yeah.
But prior to me going to rehab though in the February, I got stabbed. I got set up by supposedly my best friend.
Okay.
Well, I've been told that I was set up. They knew it was going to happen if I went back out to that house that day, and everyone failed to mention it. So it was my best friend.